as myself. I don't have anything else to show you but who I am and who I'm thriving to become, inshallah. So, this is what I'm known as, Hadija Blell, but I'm currently Hadiza Olu, formerly Hadiza Blell, and popularly known as Dija. I was very scared coming here to talk because all I know how to do is sing. I don't really talk much. I don't talk much about myself. I'm sure most people that have or heard what I'm doing, mostly are always asking, when did she do this one? When did she do this? But I can only tell you that I'm here today to talk about who I am and who I was thought out to be or become, and who I'm currently becoming. I grew up in Kaduna State. I come from a family of two, myself and my brother, and I had a very strict mother. My mom is from Zaria, born in Kano, so my mom is Hausa, and my dad is Sierra Leonean. I am constantly searching for who I am because I come from a place where we are constantly defining, somebody's telling you who you are constantly. It's not necessarily that they're trying to do this so that they can put you down or bring you down. This is what we've known. These are traditions, these are cultures. These are things passed on from generations to generations, and it gets to a point where it gets to our generation and we're like, please now, what are you telling me? Which one is this one again today? You know, those kind of things. Like, we're constantly moving back and forth with, you know, our parents and not even realizing that our mothers and our fathers do have their own stories that they probably keep away from us so that we could think that life is so rosy. I wanted to first start from where I started from, and this is somewhere in Jabi Road in Kaduna State. And to this today, I don't really believe that this is who I am today because I'm constantly metamorphosizing. Like, I literally I've had a baby about a year ago, and it has completely changed who I thought I was and has made me appreciate who my mother was trying to make me become. One of my ways of probably expressing myself came out through music. This is not something that is very common where I come from, or where most of us come from. We are seen as, you know, we have certain roles, we have certain images, we have certain kinds of ways we have to be in order to be accepted in our society. And this isn't, like I said, I'm not here to tell you that these things are bad that they've told us, because truthfully, Sakanina da Allah, there are things that I'm learning now, that I'm using now that I have my own family. But music was always a way of sort of escaping or saying the things that I probably couldn't say in real life, and saying I'm not talking about myself, it could be anybody else's story. It's not really about me, you know. I was always finding ways to become the person that everybody expected me to be. As I came up here, I'm sure the first thing everybody expected me probably was to sing something. I don't really talk much, but I decided I'll try talking. Being Dija hasn't been very easy, not because it can't, but because I've had many, many hats to wear. I've literally had many people to please along the way so as not to offend anybody. This, again, has nothing to do with trying to fight the status quo or trying to say that what we were taught is completely wrong, because it's not. Like I said, these are cultural traditions that now that we are in a different generation, you know, maybe more people have more of, if I say, guts to self-awareness or self-worth, or trying to express who they are through things like pictures. That's why pictures is what I picked today, because this is how we see the world today. I mean, the reason why I know this is because many times I've got into many arguments with calling somebody on their birthday and like, Dija, but no post now. Oh, you're calling. I'm like, but I'm calling you to say happy. But things change, and this is why who I am changes every time, because the world is changing and we're almost adapting to every change that comes along the way. But still, we owe it to our cultures and our traditions to stay in a certain kind of way so that we don't break boundaries or we don't disrespect anyone. I came here to say, first and foremost, we are sorry to our mothers and our fathers because we do certain things most times thinking we know better. Most times we are learning, but we have a communication problem and a communication breakdown. And I learned through this was because I've started my own family as well. So again, I said my background started in Kaduna, and I was really raised by a very eccentric family. I mean, I was raised with a Muslim background. My faith is Islam, and I'm doing something totally outside of what is quote-unquote written for me. But just like I wanted to start this was with a song called K Sera Sera, which is whatever will be, regardless of the circular part of where this song comes from by, Ray Livingston. Even in our books, even in our holy books, everything we want to believe that it is written and what will be will be. So I used to always try to argue and say, but if I'm already like this and you're not listening, that means I'm supposed to be like this. And constantly my mom is arguing and fighting with me and telling me, you shouldn't answer me back. And these are things that she's doing not because she was trying to put me down, but now that I'm in where I'm living this life that I've quote unquote chose for myself, I'm seeing where some of these lessons make sense. You don't always talk really fast because you can, shoot yourself in the foot. So you have to keep quiet first and listen to all the facts and before you start arguing and start talking. A lot of times we want to be heard, but we don't want to listen. And that's what I've learned along the way is I'm fighting to be who I am, forgetting that who I am is part of each and every one of you because my experiences and the way I act and the way I'm defined is how I react to you. I might come to you today and I'll have an attitude problem and people say first impressions. That's why I no longer judge people based on first impressions because man, life has a way of dealing with you something. So you can meet somebody on a very bad day. So I used to believe that first impressions matter and that was who I was. But because I've grown and I've reached to certain stages in my life, I've realized that sometimes first impressions really don't matter. They told me this was about talking about who I was and who my parents wanted it to be. But truth of the matter is they do intertwine. You really can't be who you are without who your parents already were trying to make you, to be or whoever your guardian, who you grew around because you imitate everything these people do up until you reach to a certain stage, I hear a lot of, I'm self-made, and I did this by myself. And I try to remind people that we didn't really do anything ourselves, nothing. Because I don't think you have any memory between now and 5 years old as to how you got there, first of all. And so it's now that I'm starting to appreciate each and every moment in my life. Having roles signed up for me already as being, I keep telling people, I said growing up in Africa, it's amazing. It's really not a disability. It's not anything, it's not a third world country. Heck, I think we're first world. Everybody's taking everything from here and building everything else. So for me, it's a foundation that's needed, but it does come with its challenges because we have traditions and we have cultures. And within those cultures, we're now, quote unquote, what people call the millennials, and we're supposed to try to still fit within those cultures and what wasn't even explained to us properly. So I'm trying to make do with everything that I have, and the most I think as a whole is to just have respect and kindness, and that's usually how I think I go about my day. My background does have a lot to do with my family, obviously. This is the most important part of my life. This is the most, even though I fought them for a long time, even though I used to think that, it's not so bad to sing, but I never really understood because truthfully, people that, were doing this kind of profession were seen as other, not really part of the society. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. You are a female, you are an African, you are a Muslim, and you're acting like you don't even know who you are, what you are. And I used to always say, well, who I am is a reflection of my experiences and everything that I'm trying to understand. But I can't understand it if you keep yelling at me. I can't understand it if you keep telling me that everything I do is wrong. I can't and won't understand it because humanly, the way we are made up and put together is that we are trying to survive. And as soon as somebody tries to attack you, you almost, Either you run into your shell or you start doing odd, weird things to just create attention. So I always feel that it's not necessarily that, there's a breakdown between different generations. It's more or less of how we are given the information. It doesn't really take more than 3 to 4 seconds to sit down. There are certain conversations I could never and would never bring up with my mother a long time ago that everybody's expecting me to be comfortable to talk about now. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not trained to have these conversations. I'm not trained to speak about these things. Neither am I, but nobody ever told me not to sing about it. So that's why I ended up finding ways to get the message out there. But it doesn't always have to be talking about me. These are the most important people in my life, my mother and my father. And they came from 2 separate cultures and met in Kaduna. And I keep telling someone that I'm a combination of all these things, and it's very hard to completely disregard one side or completely disregard the other side because I'm not necessarily pleasing you. I feel instead of trying to understand one another, we're trying to figure out how's the best way to keep an amazing face, to look the best part, to not say the wrong things. But by not saying those things, we don't know whether they're wrong or they're right. We don't really know when and how to use them. And when we use them at the times that we don't necessarily mean that this is what we're trying to say, it becomes a fight. And then there's no longer communication at all. And then it becomes disrespect, and then it becomes, you cannot even talk to me, I cannot, and it becomes, I find that sometimes we as youth as well don't really give our parents enough chance because you have to remember that every generation just gets more aware. It's not necessarily that they're coming with old ways. It's just every single generation gets more and more aware. And now it's even scarier because we're in the generation that's becoming another generation. And you're like, wait, I thought you're supposed to age to get here. And then, people at 21 and 25 are killing each other because they can't make their first million because everybody else is making that. So I keep saying that who I am is not necessarily who I was told I was going to become. This is, every time I meet you, I change. I hear this every time. People say, you've changed. You're constantly changing. You've changed because you're now in music. You've changed, but I can't remain the same because the people I meet are not the same. The people I see, the people like now, my pidgin is better than, see, as I did like this, I can't pay, I know they move, I know they point, I know they walk, I don't get problems. Seriously, living in Lagos, I've had to adapt. I've had to meet so many different people, and I've had to also put some of my own boundaries aside in order to open up to these people. Because with my boundaries, I don't share anything with them. With my boundaries, I sit down and say, you're different from me, so what do I have to tell you? What do you want to hear? But you try, even based on religion and based on what we've learned, they say, you try different ways. If it doesn't work this way, you sit down. If it doesn't, you stand up. If not, you lie down. If you've tried all those ways, then you move on. But I feel we give up too quickly nowadays figuring out who we are because we don't have enough patience. We don't have enough time. Everything is on the go. Everything is fast. And people always ask me, how is it that you can be a mom and you're still a musician and you're still doing all these things? I'm like, dude, do you know how many hundreds of millions of women have done this before me countless times? There's nothing special about anything that I'm doing. So I didn't come here to tell anybody what I'm doing is so special. It's just what it is I've chosen to do in order to figure out what life is about. And there comes a time where you may never do it again. There comes a time where things change and things become, you're more aware than you were the last time, and things you thought were so serious, and if I didn't do it, I would die. You're just like, I'm moving on to the next thing. And this comes with growth. This comes with probably, I'm sure many mothers will tell you, every child you have, you kind of lose a part of yourself and you put everything into them. Because it's not like our parents did not have dreams or aspirations or different things that they wanted to do. It's just that as humans, we make sacrifices, and it is within these sacrifices we discover what it is we can or cannot do or can handle or cannot handle. My dad being Sierra Leonean and my mom being from Zaria, it was never difficult. It was other people that made it difficult. Or people ask me, are you not confused? Or Or is it that, which one are you? Or which one? I'm like, I never really had to choose. I'm kind of everything that they've made me, so I never had to choose. I found it was always the world trying to make me choose, trying to make me say, the things that maybe they are too scared to say. I find that, and it just made it a lot easier, I guess, later on to sort of look in hindsight and say, okay, I guess this is what I was supposed to learn from this. Truthfully, I never in my life thought I would sing. I never woke up in the morning and said, this is what I want to do. I want to make my parents upset, or I just want to show I'm a rebel. That's not what I did. I just followed what it was I thought I was following, and it led me up to here. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, I pray every day that I'm guided and constantly shown what it is that I will appear in however many years from here. But until then, this is where I'm at, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I came from a place where, I was told that almost if you touch somebody like this, you could get pregnant. You just don't even try and go anywhere. You can talk from a distance and things like that. And, this for me was always, okay, well, if I wore trousers, who wants to come and be making me feel any kind of way? There's really nothing attractive about a pair of trousers, and it stuck because it was almost like a guard. I always felt if I had trousers, or you wore a dress and wore trousers underneath, you're like, I'm okay, nothing can happen to me at this point. You grow up feeling that you don't really have people around you, but you do. You have people around you. Being a woman, being Northern, being Nigerian, being Sierra Leonean, being African, it doesn't really stop you from having respect and kindness and, having a story that at some place, at some time, somebody will listen to it, somebody will hear it. Talking is not necessarily one of my best traits. So I draw, and this is something that I don't really talk or show at all. I draw the eyes a lot, and one of the reasons I draw the eyes a lot because that's, like they say, the window to the soul, and most likely I'm trying to see something within myself that I can't see quite yet. I do all this with pen, biro. I wish I knew how to use pencil. This is one of the first drawings I ever did out of frustration. I was quite angry and I had a fight. Until today, I don't know how I stood there for 4 hours and I didn't take the pen off. And the first thing was, I said I loved my fans, and this was back in 2009, knowing that deep down inside, everything everybody told me that I was not going to do, I will try. I will try, and I will do it consistently, and I will do it every day, and I will pray over it. And if for some reason this is not good, then by God, let it stop. And this is where we are today, and this is where I'm still continuing to pray. This is a very big part of my life. I'm constantly learning, constantly trying to grow within it. I'm sure by many different standards, there are right things you're doing, there are wrong things you're doing, and you're hoping that eventually, like they say, and I find that these days, we're getting more and more afraid to show what it is or who we are and faith, because it's almost becoming some form of a bad word. And I'm very proud. I'm very proud to be a Muslim, and I'm very proud to be here. And this has nothing to do with being tribalistic or it is just who I am. And I don't want to have to be making excuses for it over and over again because of a certain group of people or a certain news that's going around there. We should all be able to openly discuss who we are, regardless of how offensive it is, as long as we can actually keep an open communication. You learn something. We don't have to admit it right there and then that we learned something. We can always admit it to each other at home, And I've had some moments, obviously I'll say some moments of, my mom calls moments of craziness, and when I use Ankara to make braids because I'm finding different ways to cover my hair up or finding different ways to show that you can express different things, and nets on my face. This is not necessarily what people should be doing. It's what I do to express what's inside of me. I remember one day like that, me and mama had a little chat, on how to lapse I sat, but only one question me ask, mama, what is it that they want anyways? Why is it so hard to be a woman? Which way is right anyways? I'm surrounded by you and I want you to help me. Thank you very much.